Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Please click the subscribe button and let's dive into today's story. Thanks. It was one of those crisp September mornings in New York City. Courtroom 6B of the Manhattan District Courthouse was silent, the kind of silence that hums with restrained tension. At the defense table stood Alexander Monroe, a rising star in the legal world, 34 years old, calm, brilliant, relentless, the son of a schoolteacher and a bus driver from Harlem, a man who had fought his way to the top of the system that never wanted him to win. But today, something felt different. The judge presiding over the case was Bradford Sinclair, late 60s, cold blue eyes, an air of superiority that filled the room like a bad smell. Everyone knew Sinclair. He'd been on the bench for decades, sharp, powerful, untouchable. The case itself was simple. Alex was defending Marcus Ellison, a 22-year-old finance intern accused of embezzlement. The evidence was thin, flimsy, but from the moment Alex began speaking, Sinclair watched him with that look, that quiet disdain that only men like him could perfect. And then it happened. Mr. Monroe, the judge said, leaning forward slightly, "Your enthusiasm is commendable, but I hope your perspective isn't colored by any particular sensibilities." The room froze. The words were soft, almost casual, but the meaning was a dagger. For a moment, Alex said nothing. His jaw tightened, his eyes locked on the bench. Then, steady as stone, he spoke. "With respect, Your Honor, I fail to see how my race, or any personal attribute, bears on the legal merits of this case." A flicker of annoyance crossed Sinclair's face. "I'm not suggesting anything," he said coolly. "I'm merely observing that you approach things differently, perhaps passionately." The condescension was sharp enough to cut, and from the back of the gallery, someone was watching. A woman, quiet, elegant, almost hidden in the shadows. Her eyes never left Alex, and her expression never changed. When the hearing recessed, whispers filled the courthouse halls. "Did you hear that?" someone muttered. "Old man's losing it," another said under their breath. Alex kept a composure, but inside, something burned. And all the while, the woman in the gallery remained silent, though her eyes told a different story. The next day, the gallery was fuller. Reporters had started to show up. The tension was heavier now, coiled tight around every word. Alex argued his motion with precision, every point cutting deeper than the last. And with every sentence, Sinclair's jaw tightened. Then, just as Alex finished, the judge leaned forward again. "Mr. Monroe," he said sharply, "your ability to perform in this courtroom is admirable, but don't mistake performance for substance." The silence that followed was deafening. And then she stood, the woman from the gallery. The sharp click of her heels echoed through the room as she walked down the aisle, slow, deliberate. Sinclair froze. His cold confidence faltered, if only for a moment. She stopped just short of the bar. Her voice was calm, but it carried like thunder. "Judge Sinclair," she said, "it's been a long time." Confusion, and something darker flickered in his eyes. "Do I know you?" he asked, his voice strained. "Oh, you know me," she said, her lips curling into the faintest smile. "You may not remember my face, but you remember my name. Or at least you should." Then she turned and walked out, leaving behind a room so silent you could hear the clock ticking on the far wall. That night, Alex sat alone in his office, staring at the text glowing on his phone. "You don't know me yet, Alex, but you will. Be ready. He's not the man you think he is." No name, no explanation, just a warning. The next morning, she was there again. Same seat, same quiet intensity. This time, when their eyes met, she nodded once. A signal. By lunch, she was gone. But on Alex's table, she left a folded note. "Meet me tonight, Pier 14. Midnight. No one else." The riverfront was quiet that night. The city lights glittered across the water, and the cold air bit Alex's face as he waited. And then she appeared. "You're punctual," she said softly. "You've been following me," Alex replied, his voice low. "I've been watching," she corrected. She stepped closer, her eyes sharp, filled with something fierce. That man, Bradford Sinclair, he's done this before. He's destroyed people. People like my father. Her voice wavered for just a moment. Then it hardened. My father was the first black attorney in a small southern county. Brilliant, honest, fearless. And Sinclair, he humiliated him, took everything from him. I watched it happen. And when my father died, I promised myself one thing. One day, Sinclair would pay. She reached into her coat pocket and handed Alex a small flash drive. This, she said, is everything. Records, transactions, cases he buried, proof of everything he's done. Enough to end his career and maybe more. But once you open it, there's no going back. Alex stared down at the drive, the weight of it heavy in his hand. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated. Then finally, quietly, she said, Danielle Carter. Footsteps echoed in the distance. Slow, steady, growing closer. Danielle's head snapped up, her body tensing. They know, she whispered. He knows I've made my move. Who? Alex demanded, but she shook her head. Not here. Not now. Use the drive. Follow the evidence. And whatever happens, Alex, don't trust anyone in that courthouse. And just like that, she was gone, disappearing into the shadows, leaving Alex alone on the pier, the flash drive clutched tightly in his hand. By morning, the city was alive again. People rushing, taxis honking, the hum of normal life everywhere. But Alex Monroe sat in his office, staring at the drive on his desk, knowing his life had just changed forever. This wasn't just about defending Marcus Ellison anymore. This was bigger, much bigger. And as the first light of dawn cut across the city skyline, one thing became clear. The game had begun. The flash drive sat on Alex Monroe's desk like a ticking time bomb. For hours, he just stared at it, his mind racing. He knew that once he plugged it in, there'd be no turning back. And yet, something inside him, that same quiet fire that had carried him through every battle in his life, told him that this was what he was meant to do. Finally, with a steady breath, he slid the drive into his laptop and opened a single folder labeled. The first file was a stack of scanned court transcripts from 20 years ago. Alex skimmed the words, his pulse quickening with every page. There was Danielle's father, a brilliant attorney humiliated and disbarred over false claims. Every objection ignored, every motion denied, and presiding over it all, Judge Bradford Sinclair. Another file revealed bank statements, secret counts, payoffs, hush money, millions quietly funneled over decades to keep cases buried, to silence complaints, to buy loyalty. And then the photos. Alex froze. It was Sinclair, younger, smiling for cameras with men tied to organized crime, their hands clasped in quiet deals that would never see daylight. For a moment, Alex just sat there, the weight of it pressing down on him. He understood now. This wasn't just about arrogance or casual racism. This was about corruption, deep, systemic, and dangerous. And Danielle, she'd been right. The next morning, Alex walked into the courthouse with the same quiet confidence as always, but inside, every nerve was alive with purpose. The gallery was packed now. Reporters lined the benches, cameras rolling. Everyone sensed it. Something was about to happen. Danielle sat in her usual seat, her expression calm but unreadable. She didn't need to say anything. Her eyes said it all. It's time. When Judge Sinclair entered, the usual murmur of the courtroom faded into tense silence. Alex rose slowly, motioning for clerk. Your Honor, he said evenly, before we proceed, I have evidence that directly concerns the integrity of these proceedings. The room shifted. People whispered. Sinclair's eyes narrowed. Mr. Monroe, the judge said, his voice hard. What exactly are you implying? Alex met his gaze without flinching. I'm not implying anything, Your Honor. I'm stating a fact. This court, this city, deserves to know the truth. He held up a thick file, printed copies of everything on the drive, and handed them to the clerk. As the judge scanned the pages, his face drained of color. The courtroom erupted in gasps as murmurs grew louder. reporters scrambling to capture every moment. "This is outrageous," Sinclair barked, but his voice trembled. "This is slander, fabricated lies." "No, Your Honor," Alex cut in, his voice sharp, commanding. "These are your words. Your accounts. Your deals. Every single one documented, verified, undeniable." For the first time, Bradford Sinclair looked small. The weight of decades of power, arrogance, and corruption collapsing in real time under the weight of the truth. By afternoon, the courthouse was in chaos. The state bar announced an emergency investigation. Cameras swarmed the courthouse steps. Headlines blazed across every outlet. That evening, as the city buzzed with the fallout, Alex found himself standing outside the courthouse, the cool night air washing over him. Danielle appeared beside him, silent for a moment before finally speaking. "My father would have been proud of you," she said softly. Alex turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "No," he said, "he'd be proud of you. You never stopped fighting." For the first time since they met, she smiled, not the sharp, guarded smile she'd worn for weeks, but something real. "It's over," she said quietly. Alex shook his head. "No, this is just the beginning. There are others, other victims, other voices that need to be heard." Danielle looked at him, the quiet fire in her eyes matching his own. "Then we make sure they are." Weeks later, Sinclair resigned in disgrace, his career and legacy shattered. Investigations led to indictments, and the walls of a corrupt empire began to crumble. Marcus Ellison's case was dismissed, the young man finally walking free, his name cleared. And Alex? He returned to his work, but something had changed. He wasn't just a lawyer anymore. He had become a voice for justice, for truth, for those who've been silenced for too long. As for Danielle, she disappeared from the spotlight as quietly as she had arrived. But every now and then, Alex would receive a message, a simple note, and signed, but always the same. "Keep fighting. The city still needs you." And every time, Alex would smile, knowing that somewhere out there, someone else was still watching, still waiting, still ready to rise when the next battle came. In the end, truth has a way of coming to light, no matter how deep it's buried, no matter how many years it's been hidden. The moment always comes when someone brave enough, someone relentless enough, brings it into the open. For Alex Monroe and Danielle Carter, that moment had come, and though the battle was over, their story had only just begun.